And people. Hi, friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by Marco from Clutch Team Sports. It is a wonderful day, but I am sick. And I thought I would let you guys all know that because you were dying at the bits to know. But John Lynch talked yesterday. Brandon Aiyuk, will he be on the team? Will he not be on the team? I thought Mike Silver put out an interesting article, and we have a draft day predictor that we want to get into. So lots of fun stuff. Most people are used to seeing us get together on Friday, but there's going to be some changes with the draft and everything coming up in just 2 days. It's an exciting week. So Marco and I wanted to bring you a little bit of pre-draft content first.
Yep. Hopefully it's what they want. I mean, trying to do a surprise show for them throughout the week.
We're dying at the bits.
Absolutely, everyone's wanted this show, so it's definitely crazy because I did see the article by Mike Silver, but I don't know. Did you see what Brandon Ayuk's receiver coach said?
Oh no, tell me now. Everyone's
TJ
everyone's chiming in.
TJ. I don't know how to say the last name. But he essentially said that he's his receiver coach. He talked to Brandon Ayuk, and Brandon Ayuk said he doesn't want to leave San Francisco. He just wants to get paid.
Yeah, and which kind of echoes I know I think this was last week, but Mike Silver put out that tweet. But he did say the tweet was Brandon Ayuk's wish is to get paid more than stay with San Francisco, but he would prefer to stay with San Francisco. So,
I mean,
which kind of makes
I
sense,
think
right? I
everyone
don't think
prefers
you
to
want
get
to,
paid. Like,
yeah, and I don't think even if honestly, and this is stuff fans would never know, but even if he was willing to take like a tiny hometown discount, he wouldn't want to come out and say that. You know what I mean? Like he would
I know.
want to just he's already in a position where he doesn't really have leverage, so you definitely want to at least approach these things media wise, and the message that you're giving the 49ers is, you know, I'm going to go with who gives me the highest offer because that's going to incentivize the 49ers to do that. I think from even that article that I've seen and from just other people talking about it, John Lynch yesterday, it seems like Brandon Ayuk's camp and the 49ers camp, best case scenario is they want to stay together and, work out a deal. I think BA would have to, get paid much more to and be able to get a lot of draft picks to go back and or to get traded away. And I think that the 49ers would want to keep him unless they got, an offer that was blown out of the water. Just since we're already talking about it, but getting into it, Mike Silver said that, he asked GMs around the league and that the, buzz is that the 49ers are asking for too much, and what they want isn't something that most teams are willing to give up. Now, Mike Silver then went on to kind of speculate on his own that maybe some teams are convinced that they'll actually be willing to take a second round pick this year and with a third round pick next year. I think that that is ridiculous, and I would be extremely disappointed if the 49ers did take something like that. I think that that's more wishful thinking on whoever, whatever source or whatever GM is hoping that Brandon Aiyuk would go for less than a first round pick. I'm of the opinion that come if he's not traded on, Thursday night, he's going to be on the team this year. What about you?
Yeah, I think with Mike Silver's article, like he had good points in terms of like he does mention 49ers are asking for way too much, and as they should. Like
Yeah.
when he's a number one receiver and you don't want to move someone, your asking price is a lot higher. Like so for me, that was one of the ones where I'm like, okay, if there is an asking price and it's super high where teams can't come out and get him, that tells me a lot about the 49ers and what they view, how they view Brandon Ayuk. Because if you wanted to move him, you would be like, oh, I'm just looking for just a first. If they're looking for more than a first plus, like there's no way I see Brandon Ayuk getting moved. I do know Mike Silver ended up saying, but anything could happen. Um, so that to me was interesting because of course anything could happen. Like it's one of those ones where we could who knows if I'll make it to draft day? Like who knows if I'll be alive on Thursday? Anything
Kyle
could happen.
Shanahan.
Yeah, like we could pull a Kyle. Like so that's him saying anything could happen after putting all this together was just like So you don't believe what you wrote. Like, because he essentially, I felt like he was trying to say he's going to be traded. I felt like that's what he was trying to say. And then he was like, but
It
anything could
definitely
happen.
has to, it definitely felt like I don't know so much in this article, but I've seen him on some podcasts with I think it was like Tim Kawakami and Rob Sascarera, and I don't know if it's more like pot stirring or whatever, and I'm not judging. That's what I'm doing right now too. But it it has felt like he's maybe more wanted to push the narrative that Brandon Ayuk will get traded. So I can see what you're saying. But also, I mean, I think it is fair that the interpretation would be mixed because I think John Lynch gave a pretty mixed response by saying, like we don't anticipate that Brandon Ayuk won't be on the team come Friday. But if you call back to what he said about Nick Bosa last year, I think he literally said, not even just no, but hell no. Like,
Yeah.
hell no, we're not answering the phone. Hell no, no, Nick Bosa's not going anywhere. Like, that is the most definitive statement, and obviously different positions, different skill sets. BA is extremely valuable to the team, but maybe not at the level of Nick Bosa. So I'm not even criticizing Lynch for responding to those questions differently. I think Lynch did, though, give himself an out with the anticipation because he can say, this is how I expected the board to fall. This is what I expected other teams to offer. And we were blown away by this offer. We didn't expect, this one guy to be there. And because of that, I can now go to my little like post draft press conference and you can't crucify me for saying, we're 100% not going to trade BA. Like I'm leaving open that possibility. But
I think that wasn't out from
yeah,
Lynch because Lynch did, because I know I haven't talked about that, but Lynch
yeah,
did
yeah,
have
yeah.
it out there because he was like, he got asked if he's giving Brandon Ayuk permission to seek a trade. And he didn't answer the question.
Yeah, that was, and he like answered the other questions too. Even though he started it by being like, "Oh, I don't want to answer questions." He definitely at least was giving kind of like his roundabout answers. That one he just completely shut down.
And I think for me, I agree with JD Durham. I don't think they're moving Brandon Ayuk. I think Ayuk will be on the roster. I think he'll get paid what he deserves. Going into the draft, I know there's team building strategy going on, and people want. I don't know if people want an 49ers for sure to take a pick at 31, but
I want to
I
ask you
am
about this.
hearing I am hearing a little bit. I don't know if the Niners pick at 31.
Okay, I'm just reading between the tea leaves or whatever you're going to say. Because it's true, you and I haven't spoken about Lynch's press conference. Um, I know that all teams don't think that there's 32 first round draft talents, right? Like every year, that's always a thing. Someone is not every guy is worth that first round pick. However, I thought it was poor choice on John Lynch's part to come out and acknowledge that they only had 22 first round, graph or how do I say that
Draft
better?
grades, first round grades.
First round grades because now I'm like, well, you either have to trade up to, into the 22s or you have to trade back because if you just stay pat, which I was actually under the assumption up until yesterday that the 49ers were in a good position just to stay pat and go best player available. But now I feel like now they're going to be lying and because they're going to have to say that one of the 22 guys that they graded the rest of the league didn't see as a top 22 player and must have fell to 31 if they don't move up. So now I
No,
feel
that's
like they're
possible
gonna
though.
they're gonna have to
That's
move up.
possible though
Explain.
because so for example, the Niners probably aren't really considering any of the quarterbacks, right? They're not giving like they have grades on them, but they're not like okay, these are guys on our board,
Do you
right?
not think that those would be part of the top 22 then?
I don't think so because they already have their quarterback. Unless they, I mean, they have a first round grade on them, but I don't think those are their 22 first round grades on their draft board. I don't think unless something drastic was to happen, where for some reason some a miracle happened where Caleb Williams or Drake May fell or Jaden Daniels fell super far. There's no way the Niners have them on their part of their 22 first round grades on their draft board because that's three players right there automatically possibly JJ McCarthy. So that's four, and they were up to 26 players because they probably don't have those guys on their board also too, a lot of people overvalue certain positions. For example, some teams will give more receivers first round grades than others. Same thing with offensive tackle and offensive line. So I don't necessarily see, for example, when I talk to other people who like to personally scout, we
Yeah.
have different grades all the time. And then we have grades on the same player were pretty similar, first round grade or something like that. So I could see
That makes
where the difference is because some teams value certain positions more, some teams value certain skill sets more, and that's where the first round grade comes from. But usually teams do have no more than 32 first round grades. If you have more than 32 first round grades, you're just giving everyone first round grades at that point. So I don't think it was ill advised from him to do because he does it almost every year. He normally comes out and says how many first round grades he has or how many draftable players they have on their board. But it's just very interesting because
So do you think if they
other,
stay at 31, they have a chance of getting one of their top 22 guys?
there's a chance. I think there's a chance because guys like Kool Aid is probably a first round grade from them, and he's likely to fall. And we'll get into that one later. Look with that player later. But there's players who are projected to slip in this draft. There's players like it's just because he has 21, 22 round grades. I don't think every team has the same first round grades on everyone. For example,
Okay, that's fair,
some
that's
teams
fair.
could have for example, some teams could have Mims and Tyler Guyton as first rounders. Some teams, I know for sure, some teams don't because I've talked to a couple scouts on certain teams that don't have first round grades on them. So like, there's a
Interesting,
disparity there
okay.
on offensive tackles.
Okay, interesting. Now, just going to the, like, more hypothetical really quickly. Do you think, because I think it was the last on Friday when you and I were talking, I was kind of saying, and I've been under the assumption that Brandon Ayuk actually means more to the 49ers than, most of these other teams. Because once again, referencing that Mike Silver article, and other people have pointed this out too, there is a lot of good wide receivers in this draft. So if you're the Colts or someone, why would you not, use a high pick to draft a wide receiver who then can grow and build with your team rather than trade for one? The only reason you would want one that's like ready to win, at Brandon Ayuk's level right now is if you felt the pressure to win, I was thinking win a Super Bowl this next year. So I was thinking like,
Hmm.
honestly, it's like the 49ers and the Bills are the, only two teams that Brandon Ayuk should mean, more than a very high pick where you could, go either you don't necessarily have to go wide receiver with that pick. But I think it was Grant, but someone was talking about the possibility that actually it's not only teams that need to win a Super Bowl this upcoming year, but teams that need job security. So I don't think Mike Tomlin is going to be out of a job. So I don't think the Steelers are going to feel as much pressure to trade for Brandon Ayuk. However, Jacksonville and our boy Trent Baalke, they've been kind of screwing up over there with their draft stuff and with their team building. They thought that they drafted the chosen one and Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not saying he's not incredible, but I don't think they've had as much success as anticipated. And I could see if Trent Baalke feels like his seat is warm, I could see him saying, "Hey, maybe I could draft a wide receiver with pick 17 who could develop to be, as good as Brandon Ayuk or better maybe or whatever, whatever he turns into in 1 or 2 years. But I don't know if I have 1 or 2 or I don't have 2 or 3 years. I need a guy who's going to help me win some playoff games with Trevor Lawrence this year." And maybe that's Brandon Aiyuk. Could you see Trent Baalke trying to do a deal with the 49ers and offering that pick 17? And
Yeah, absolutely.
would a top 20 pick like that be enough for you to consider moving off of Brandon Aiyuk if you're the 49ers?
I definitely think there's a chance that that the Jags want to move 17 for a veteran receiver. We've seen in the past a lot of teams get their young quarterback a veteran receiver, and that quarterback have a better year or they start progressing in their development. We've seen it with Josh Allen. We've seen it with Justin Fields. However, Justin Fields didn't work for him. DJ got DJ Moore. So we've seen it with a lot of quarterbacks. Now the issue is with the Jaguars is you do get Brandon Aiyuk, but I don't think pick 17 is enough for me because
Ooh.
how can you sell to your organization and your fan base, which the Niners have been saying they're all in on Super Bowls, where our goal is to win once a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls. How can you then sell to your fan base that we're trying to win a Super Bowl this year when you just traded your best receiver on the team and now you don't have a receiver that can beat man to man? And that draft pick is essentially a development pick because we've seen Kyle in the past not play rookie receivers. He has a hesitation to do so. So at that point, you can't sell to your fan base building a team around Brock Purdy and around um, the defense that we're winning a Super Bowl this year because you just admitted that you're going into a low key rebuild build mode. If you trade Brandon Aiyuk, it's low key a rebuild because you're preparing for a rebuild next year.
It's just so funny because I feel like I've made this exact take on Twitter where I've just been like, I don't understand how you move off of Brandon Aiyuk and convince people that you are going all in for this year. And not only fans who want to you obviously want fans to buy in and support and come watch all the games, but also other players on the team. You heard Fred Warner talk about them moving off of Eric Armstead yesterday in his press conference. I think if you start moving off of all these guys that other people in the locker room think set the standard of the team, especially a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, who, isn't struggling with injury, is doing everything right, has grown up with the team, does seem like such a vital part of this offense. How do you convince, George Kittle, all these veterans who maybe don't have that much more Trent Williams, that, you need to give it your all, and we're giving you the best possibility to win this year without them kind of side-eyeing you later on. I don't
Yeah, you could
know.
definitely lose. You could definitely lose a locker room by trading a guy like Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion. Because last offseason, Brandon Ayuk came to training camp, and his goal was to terrorize the defense. His goal was to get under Fred Warner's defense in order to get under his skin. Like that was his goal, and he did that. They ended up fighting. They threw punches at each other. That's the kind of dude. If you're on defense and you're a captain of the team like Fred Warner, you don't want your team to get rid of because you know he makes you better every week in training camp, and you know
You
he's one
respect
of the
that,
best
right?
players in the league. Yeah,
And Fred Warner himself, like, he's even said prior to last offseason, like, I try to instigate Brandon Ayuk because I think he can be, like, I think he has another level. I can't wait for him to show that on the field. And so, like, Fred Warner also feels like, not only has this organization, Kyle, whoever helped Brandon Ayuk develop, but I've developed. I wanted to pull this up really quick. Brother Bob says, nice haircut, Marco. Um, but
but one thing I did take too, and he also shouted you out with a nice hoodie. Um, but one thing I did notice from the
my
Mike
little
Silver,
sister's,
and I
so if she's watching, no, it's not.
dang, she's about to get beat up. I don't,
Mhm.
I don't know. I had siblings, and siblings used to wear each other's stuff. We used to beat each other up. But
But she
so
she gets so mad when I wear her stuff, and then she wears my stuff. The other day I was supposed to go out to this nice dinner, and I have this leather jacket that's actually not even my leather jacket, it's my best friend's leather jacket that I took from New York and brought back. But then my little sister, I was streaming and she like texted me and she's like, "Don't wear my sweater." And then I come home and my jacket was gone. And I was like, "You
that's
took my
crazy.
jacket."
That's crazy. See, that's where you gotta fight. I'm just kidding. Over here promoting them fighting. But one thing I did take from Mike Silver's latest article was when he mentioned this. He goes, and I don't know how true this is. I'm gonna ask someone later today. He said the 49ers contacted at least one team's general manager to gauge interest in Ayuk. However, with a deep wide receiver class, that general manager opted to refrain from pursuing further conversations. He then said, to this point, the 49ers have asked for a 2024 first round pick. They want too much, said the executive, whose
Yeah,
team is
yeah.
in the market for a receiver. Now, what I took from that was, why are the 49ers calling?
I think
Why
it's
did you
probably it's smart
call? If this,
to it's smart to like before you give a guy whatever amount of money you probably want to know his market, right? Cuz like what if you're saying what if you think like in your brain, okay, we might be willing to go up to like 26, and then you ask around like if we were to trade Brandon Ayuk, what would you give up for him and what would you be willing to pay him? And all these other teams are like, oh, we wouldn't be willing to give him more than 25. Well, now you as the 49ers can be like, You can go
Yeah,
into
I don't think
negotiation and be like, "This is what we're gonna give you," and if Brandon Aiyuk is like, "I can get more somewhere else," you can confidently be like, "No, you can't. Go try." You know? So I
I mean,
think
I
it's
don't think
smart
they
to give
would.
it the market.
I don't think a team would tell you, "Oh, I'd be willing to pay him this." Right? Like, because like, at that point, it's like, "Wait,
No?
why would I give you" no, heck no. Why would I do the work for you? Why would I give you my frame of a market where if I did wanna trade for him, why would I tell you how much I would pay for him? Right? Like, it's I'm not gonna trade a first rounder and then end up paying him $30 million when if you thought I was gonna pay him 30, you're gonna be like, okay, then I could get more for this guy. I could get a first and some. But if I tell you, hey, I would pay him only 22, then you're likely only to give less draft capital. I don't think a team would give a price range. I think more so draft picks wise, they would be like, oh yeah, I'd be willing to give up a
Well,
first rounder
if
for him.
back to John Lynch's thing, if John Lynch did give Brandon Ayuk's agent permission to ask around, that wouldn't that kind of be that same thing? Because Brandon Ayuk's agent is going to be looking for the team that's going to give Ayuk the most money. So then he's going to go back to the 49ers and be like, this team is willing to pay my client this, either A, match it, or B, trade him. They said they're willing to give up X, Y, and Z. You know, pick.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, but the thing is, for me, it's more so like we shouldn't be calling. If teams
We
know
shouldn't
that
what?
teams, we should not be calling other teams.
I
And
think
if
you
this is
have to.
true,
I think you want to know. I think you want to, like, before you give a guy that much money, you want to know his market.
but do you are
Because what
you
if
the thing is though
what
is
if
if you're
you don't
gauging,
know, but what if someone's like, "I'm gonna give you 2 first round picks and all this?" You'd be like, "Alright, well, I like Brandon Aiyuk, but not that much." Like,
but
you gotta know his market.
when did you want that team to come calling you and saying, "Hey, I'm willing to give up 2 firsts for Brandon Aiyuk," versus you calling them, and now it looks like you're trying to trade that guy. It looks like based off of what Mike Silver said, it looks like the Niners are trying to move him. Because if I'm calling
I
someone
don't
saying,
think
"Hey,"
they're opposed to the to teams knowing that he's on the market. Because in that article, he says, like, the they're calling teams, but their price is too high. So I don't think they like I think maybe if they are willing to give up 17, I'm not saying they called Jacksonville, but they wouldn't be mad if they called, the Ravens and then the Ravens started, people started talking and then all of a sudden Jacksonville figures out, "Ooh, okay, Brandon Ayuk is on the market. We could give up." Like I don't think the 49ers would mind people knowing he's on the market. In my opinion, the way that Brandon or John Lynch answered the press conference yesterday, he was confirming again that he's on the market. If they minded that he was, looked like he was on the market, I think they would, be like hell no, the way they did Nick Bosa.
the thing is though is with Brandon Ayuk, it's the price is right. Like, right, like, it's one of those where if you offer enough, you could get them. And I've always said that, like, if you give up 2-1, the Niners would be stupid to say no. Like, you're getting 2 first rounders for an elite level receiver, and you have good enough players. So for me, um,
Really
the
quickly, I don't think that
49ers,
they look desperate because they have turned down offers for less. Like they've made it clear that they've made their asking price really high. For example, did they I mean, potentially they looked desperate to trade Jimmy for years, but they never traded him because their asking price was so high. You know what I mean? I don't
and I
know.
think for this, it's one of those ones where if they are calling teams, asking them what they're willing to give up for them, just to me, it just doesn't look right. It looks like you're trying to move them, like you're calling to see if a team's interested. It's like if I called you, hey Ashley, are you interested in trading for this? Are you interested in buying this? Versus you calling me, I'm selling
Yeah,
the
this
car. You're
is
like,
you
hey,
selling versus me inquiring.
yeah, like, hey, I'm like, I have an ad for a car, and you're like, hey, are you still selling that car? It's a little different. Like it's so that's where I see it. I don't like that they did it. I'm gonna call later on update you, but I'm gonna
Okay.
call later to see if that's what happened. If they're calling teams, because I haven't heard that since this whole time. I have not heard they were calling teams.
I will say I agree with you, or not agree, but whenever I've heard this previously to this article, like previously to literally today when this article came out, I've always heard that it's other teams calling.
Yeah, so
You
that's
know?
what's weird. But 49ers are trying to build a team, and
And
their
it's like if
strategy.
my thing with calling, like I was like, "Oh, like you wanna call because you wanna gauge the market." But John Lynch even admitted like teams are calling them. So, like, you don't at that point, you shouldn't have to call because teams are calling you, you
right? So
know?
that's where I'm like, wait, where are we at? Because John said they're calling, teams are calling them. Mike Silver says they're calling teams. Like, doesn't sound right in my opinion, but I also do think the Niners aren't calling. I don't think they're trying to trade Brandon Ayuk. I don't think Ayuk will be traded,
I
but
don't
the
Yeah, oh,
49ers,
okay. I will say, though, I feel like before John Lynch's press conference, I put it, like, 60% they're gonna get an extension done, 35% chance he's gonna play on the 5th-year option, 5% chance he was gonna get traded. Like, I thought him playing on the 5th-year option was a pretty big possibility, just from listening to the way that John Lynch had responded to previous, interviews that he had done. But then after yesterday, didn't John I felt like John Lynch gave the vibe that they're either gonna extend him or they're gonna trade him. Like, when he said, like, "We wanna get our business tidied up, sooner this offseason," and stuff like that, like, that doesn't sound like a drawed out, like, "We're gonna try to force you to play in the 5th year up," like, sounds like it's more I would go it's more likely that he's either extended or traded than he plays on that 5th year option. What is if you had to give a percent, what is your percent that he, uh
is on the
gets
roster.
traded, stays, and then plays on the 5th year option, like, stays with an extension or stays but has to play on his 5th year option?
I
What do
would
you
say my percent is around 80% that he's on the roster,
Okay.
20% that he is traded, and probably I'm a little higher in terms of like number wise, but I'm just giving
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
just I'm pretty confident he'll be on
yeah,
the team.
yeah.
Like just because I've never heard that they're trying
Are
to
you
move him.
confident in them giving him the extension, or do you think that there's a good possibility that he plays on that 5th year option? Like, Eric Crocker, up until I haven't talked to him since the John Lynch conversation, but he was saying, he thought it was up until, like I said, his opinion could have changed, but when I talked to him, like, a week ago, he was saying, he was thought it was more likely that BA would play on the 5th year option than get an extension. But he
I don't.
thought that they
I
would
mean, it,
extend him after next year. Do you think that
and I
the
think
5th year
either
option
one,
is a possibility in play?
yeah, of course, because it saves you money rolling over, and if you do extend BA, you don't have to. So essentially, teams like using the franchise tag as a starting point in conversations, right? So if he does play it on this 5th year option, they're gonna immediately they'll tag him after the year when they're able to start open up the tag. They'll tag him. Now, what's guaranteed for that year is the starting point. All right, this is your yearly starting point. Let's work around that. And then they turn that into guaranteed and everything. But like everything like that, it's I don't see the Niners moving off of them because Niners. Oh, if Niners really want, they have full 3 years of team control of Brandon Ayuk. 5th year option, franchise tag, if they really want. So it's
Yeah.
like when
Yeah,
people were like, "Oh, Niners are moving them,"
they haven't been that type of organization so far.
they haven't. But you gotta do what you gotta do to win the championship.
Yeah, yeah. True, true, true. And we've seen I mean, I wouldn't have thought that they would have, let Armstead go. So maybe we've seen now that it's like crunch time, and maybe we start seeing them, doing business a little bit differently. I did like that John Lynch, and whether or not, once again, we'll see if this ends up being true. But a media member did ask him, with Debo Samuel, with Nick Bosa, we saw dips in their performances, and both of them attributed it to having this drag out contract extension, not being able to practice fully, all this stuff. Is it your goal to get something done with Brandon Ayuk sooner? And John Lynch talked about, like, learning as you grow, as you go, and how maybe it seems like a pattern that they wait till the very end, but that's, not something that he wants to make a pattern, and that he's hopeful to get this done sooner.
And I thought
This
that's what he meant by tidying up business.
I agree, I agree. Felt like that. Which to me felt like I think that's why I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't know if the 5th year option is in play," because to me it made it seem like tidying up business meant, like, he's either gonna be traded on draft day, on the first night of the draft, or if he's still here, we're gonna give him a contract extension, you know, uh, before maybe during all this off-season programming, training camp stuff instead of waiting till the very end like we have with other players, which I would like because I think that BA, we just talked about his energy and what he brings to training camp. I think having him there and participating is important. We also got clarification that he has not been to the facility in the last week, so I don't know why.
No, he was. He was. So no one caught that
What the heck
what Brock
is
Purdy said. No one caught what Brock Purdy said.
John
Brock Purdy
Lynch?
said he's seen him
What
around.
is that? Why are they all reporting different things? Because this happened last
Be-
week too, when Matt Naoko was like he was there, and then like 4 days later was like, just kidding.
Yeah, because Brock Purdy said that he saw him around. He's seen him around the facility. I could be wrong, but he said that he's seen him. He said that he's seen him around the facility, and that he'll text him here and there, but he keeps it away from contract talks. So
Okay.
don't know
Okay.
who's supposed to be saying what, but he said Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock
I
Purdy
wouldn't.
mentioned that he's not going to go there with asking about the contract negotiations, but then Brock Purdy did say that he's
Do you
seen him
think
around
that
the
that's
facility.
is that just like stereotypical? Like players don't get in players' other business. Because I feel like if my friend was like in negotiation, like if my friend and I, Lacey and I, worked together, and like we were trying to decide if our boss was gonna fire her or not. Like we would be talking about that. Do players really not talk about these things?
They do. They say they don't. Like they don't talk about it to that said player, but I guarantee you, Brock Purdy's talking to Colton McKivitz right now. Like, dang, dude, what do you think we're trading Brandon? Like they're gonna talk. It's the elephant in the room. Like they're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think Brandon's gonna be back? Like they don't. They're not gonna go to him, and they won't do it publicly, like in front of a heck of teammate, because that's when it gets a little sticky. But
Well, you know
that
that they
he
must have
will.
talked about, or at least players were aware of Brandon Ayuk's situation last year, because wasn't it Trent Williams and George Kittle both made some comments that were like, "Got to pay that guy $25 million or something." You know what I mean? Like after
Yeah.
good games he had and stuff.
So this is what. So I finally found the quote. Sorry for cutting you off. But so the quote
No worries.
goes. Um, shot each other some texts, checking in how he's doing. Purdy said, "I've seen, I've seen him at the facility during the off season when he's coming in just to do some rehab stuff. I've run into him. Outside of that, I've told him I want the best for him and my love for him. That's really about it." So he says he's seen him at the facility. John Lynch was lying to everyone's face. John Lynch was trying to when he said when I saw Brock Purdy say that, I was like, wait, yo, John, your team building strategy isn't that
You
great? Because if
need to
you're
like
trying to tell,
discuss. You need to discuss. You're not providing a united front. This is
yeah, it's like,
not
come on,
keeping stuff
man. Like,
inside.
so for me, it's just a little very weird. But let's get to if you want, if you're down, let's get to
Yeah.
that ESPN mock simulator style of like team. Um, and is it important for the 49ers to take one of these players, or who would you rather take? Um, Shout out to Jesse Naylor on his show last night. He was doing a mock draft, and during that mock draft, he pulled up this pretty cool ESPN analytics team that I found very fascinating. So
Draft
ESPN
day predictor.
you, yeah, so it's a very cool, unique way of looking at this, and I thought this was pretty cool. So if Ashley, can you pull it up, or do you want me to pull it up?
Do you know how to pull it up? Like, you want me to pull it up for them to be able to see?
Yeah,
I don't know how to do that.
let me see if I can do this.
I'm
All right, can you see my
sorry.
screen?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry,
All right,
guys.
no, you're good. Let me go
Oh,
to
hell
the
yeah.
actual thing. So can you guys see my
This
screen?
is
I
behind
can't
this.
see you, so
You can't see me?
no, because I'm on the tab.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're good though. You're good.
What is it?
You're good. You're good.
I wish I could make it even bigger.
So at pick 31, so it's pretty cool because it tells you who's possibly the chance of this player being there, and I thought this was pretty cool. So
Yes.
you and I have both had this talk and stuff, and I thought this would be cool to bring it up to you and everyone else. I'm a firm believer the Niners need to make a change in terms of philosophy, and what I mean by that is They need to become more of a pass happy offense in terms of you. If you really believe Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback or he's a good quarterback to be that dude, I think it's time to make Brock Purdy the focal point of your offense. Now you can still run the ball, but instead of being such a balanced offense, let's put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands more. If he's that great of a quarterback that Kyle says he is, the fan base think he is. Let's put the ball in his hands more defensively.
I agree, but do you think that Kyle Shanahan is gonna wanna do that? Like, I wonder if that's a Kyle Shanahan philosophy versus, like, a quarterback problem. I think
No,
if
that's
Kyle
just,
Shanahan had, like, Patrick Mahomes, he'd be, like, running the ball.
and I think that's the issue, right? Like where I think the change of Kyle's philosophy needs to change, right? Like that's where I'm like, okay, Kyle, you run an elite offense, but in the playoffs, your elite offense gets shut down. We've seen it two Super Bowls already. We've seen it in the past. So for me, I think a philosophy change needs to happen on offense, but defensively as well. We're so in love as a 49ers organization with defensive line, defensive line, defensive line. But then when your defensive line ain't getting to the quarterback, and we've seen it against Mahomes, 2 Super Bowls in a row, what does he do? He picks apart your defense in terms of your corners aren't good enough. You can't hang with my guy for 3.5 seconds. You can't
Yeah.
get to me because I'm going to scramble a little bit. So what do you need to do? You need to up your corners in your secondary. So that's where you need defensive, in my opinion, philosophy change. I know you might have a different opinion on that, but it's pretty cool to
No,
see.
you and I have definitely talked about this, and I agree. I just, like, I like, don't have faith that Kyle Shanahan is there yet, and maybe that's even the question with extending Brandon Aiyuk. It would be nice if the extension of Brandon Aiyuk displayed like a change in philosophy, because really you don't want to pay a guy like, with his skill set, 26-27 million dollars if you're not going to be more of a pass happy team, so maybe by extending him, that's kind of telling the fan base, like, we really are going forward with Brock Purdy and going to make this a, more balanced offense instead of so run heavy. But
So
I
he
don't know if I believe that'll happen yet, but I would hope it would.
and that's the thing. I hope they do. Now, for me, I love seeing this ESPN analytics chart or date or draft day predictor because if the Niners want to go with the kind of philosophy change that I'm thinking they need to do defensively, offensively, I know we want to upgrade our offensive line. But our offensive line wasn't that big of an issue last year, if we're being honest. They weren't the biggest issue. Um, the issue was our secondary corners. Avery Thomas playing a little too much, in my opinion. And in the Super Bowl, if they took away your best playmaker, your second best playmaker isn't that good of a route runner. So for me, I love seeing the most likely to be projected to get taken at 31 is Kool-Aid McKinstry, a cornerback out of Alabama, who is my
Yeah.
favorite cornerback in this draft. Then it's A.D. Mitchell, and I mentioned to Ashley a few shows ago that prepare for receiver at 31, and she
But
freaked
then
out.
I heard bad things about AD Mitchell.
But
I'm
what's
so
bad? What's the
confused.
bad things you've heard?
Okay, it's not even, it's like,
He's diabetic.
it's so subjective. No. So I was like pro AD Mitchell because everyone, like Pro Football Focus, all these mock drafts, like, people are so high on him. But then I was talking to Michelle. She's within the 49er space, but she's actually a Steelers fan, but she does a show with Rob, and her and I have became friends. Um but She, she was saying her, like, college that she watches is the Longhorns, and that she never ever, like, thought that AD Mitchell did good in college.
Do me a favor. I'm very curious. What does she think about Quinn Ewers? Because Ewers is pretty bad, and Ewers made, in my opinion, I thought the quarterback made A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy look worse than they are.
But she thought Xavier Worthy, like, looked great.
I could Xavier Worthy could have looked even better if he had a quarterback.
Okay, okay.
So, like for
She
me, it's
said,
like one of those ones where
she
it's
said, uh, Adonai Mitchell was inconsistent, like, not
he
good at
was
winning his routes, stuff like that, like, struggled, I guess
not
he
route
also
running.
struggled at Georgia?
Yeah, I believe he was at Georgia. He was at Georgia. So it was more so. and he talks about it. He talks about taking plays off here and there. If he knows that it's a run play to the opposite side, or if it's a passing concept where he's never in the progression, he does talk about taking a play off. But I also have to keep in mind, after finding out he's diabetic, is him taking a play off have to do with that? Is it like, hey, his coaching staff knows, hey, you have diabetes. If you're the fifth option in the progression, if it's a run play, take a play off. You're a decoy. You're just out there because
Yeah.
you're decoy. I wouldn't want you to drop your sugar by going full balls to the wall. So those are the top two guys, and then it's a player that a lot of people want, Jordan Morgan and Tyler Guyton. So it goes corner, receiver, tackle, and tackle, which, in my opinion, I thought was pretty cool. Out of those guys, I don't mind either of them except Tyler Guyton. I don't mind the Niners with those top three picks. So I don't know if you can see. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, I like. Okay, good. I can see that. Now, will you really quick tell me about Jordan Morgan? He's someone I haven't really heard that much about.
so Jordan Morgan's an offensive tackle out of Arizona. Very good base, a smaller guy. A lot of teams are projecting him to convert to guard. But based off his film, like the reason why they project him to go to guard is his length. But based off his film, he doesn't have
And I
anything
could
that
see
shows on
the
film.
Niners getting a guard because didn't John Lynch kind of made a comment with that, right? Saying like actually the interior
Versus,
offensive line is really strong in this draft as well.
and he mentioned versatility. He mentioned a guy who could play. Didn't initially mention a name, but he was like, we would love to get a guy who could play offensive tackle and guard. We like versatility. Versatility of those positions, guard and tackle. Uh, Jordan Morgan, Kingsley Suamataia, Graham Barton, who could play tackle. He played tackle in college, projected to go to center. Um, Dominic Puny later in the draft. So there's guys there at that position. And I just thought it was interesting to bring up because if they did go if all four of these guys are on the board, who are you taking, Ashley? What pick? Who are you taking? A cornerback of Alabama, who's projected to be a very good press man corner and very good in off coverage, a very good receiver who could replace Deebo Samuel next year. Jordan Morgan, an offensive tackle who may have to slide into at guard, or Tyler Guyton, who's a 6'7" freak of nature at tackle.
I think Tyler Guyton, right? Why is he lower on this totem pole? I know he's not. He's like higher than a lot of people, but he's lower than some.
So just to go based off of what's happening here. So Mel Kiper has him ranked Tyler in 24. Mel Kiper has Jordan Morgan ranked 36. He has
Oh, okay, so it's just likelihood that they'll
so
be.
the likelihood that
Yeah,
they'll be
so
there.
if they could, I would say get a guy like Tyler Guyton. Then I
Okay,
really
I
want
mean
them to
for me,
go on that offensive line. I know that they might. I guess I could accept cornerback, but especially
you could
if
accept it.
I just I need them to understand where their priorities are. I think it was Grant who asked that question, like, are you more likely to target offense or defense or whatever? And John Lynch went on this whole spiel about how they don't need to draft for need because their team is, great just the way it is. And I just don't want them to be starting the same offensive line that they started in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, I think that they are going to be doing that, but I wish that they wouldn't.
So what's crazy is here is they give you the Niners needs, right? Offensive tackle is number one priority, and then ESPN is actually saying receiver, and I
I think
actually agree.
cornerback before receiver.
I think receiver is number two because let's say if you put a good route runner opposite of Debo or opposite of Brandon Aiyuk, you don't need to play Debo every down. You could use him as the gadget guy he is, and have him be your gadget. Every once in a while, he's being pushed hard, but you're not necessarily having him be that
I think
guy.
the only reason I'm pro wide receiver this year is I think they'd actually not play a wide receiver. Like if they drafted him, I don't think they would play him this year. And then at least by next year, if they did move off of Debo, they would have already had a guy who redshirted.
I get what you're saying because like that's where I'm at. Like the Niners, um, they need to have someone who can replace Debo next year. I've heard they don't have Debo in their plans for the future. So that's where I'm kind of at. Like, oh dang, like it's
I love
interesting.
that Brother Bob really quickly, just to bring up is like Kool-Aid is not as good as Dion. I mean, Dion is a Hall of Fame. Like
We need Deion
that's an
Sandcastle.
intense standard to hold a guy in college to, you know?
There's a kid named Dion. Is it Sandcastle? The You remember that when Deion Sanders came in as Deion Sandcastle for an episode? He's actually roams around in YouTube comments. So hopefully he's here today. But then in the second round, they have the Niners going Mike Sainristil from cornerback from Michigan, where he's Mel Kiper's 59th ranked player. Then they have Christian Haynes, who's Kiper's
I've heard
55th,
about him. I've heard about him.
but then he's this is what remember I was telling you earlier how like some teams, even though the Niners have 22 first round grades, teams aren't going to have the same grade. So these are two ESPN analysts, NFL experts in terms of draft.
And that's
Kuiper has
a
Christian Haynes,
crazy disparity from 35 to fucking 69.
and that's no. So it's 35 to 55. So it's Kuiper and Reed. So it's best player ranked, like where he's ranked
Okay.
along best players. Then you got Cooper Beebe, with a really good guard center. I think he's gonna be a better guard. Kingsley Suamataia, who I'm really high on. What's interesting is same
Good
thing.
guy. But I thought that
At
you
63, he won't be there.
spot to be there.
He won't.
Yeah.
So Kuiper has him ranked 64. Reed has him ranked 38, which I said he's going before 40. So it's the disparity again. So like we were saying earlier on the show, like
Especially position of need. Yeah, he wouldn't be there for they'd have to trade up in the second round. Which
so
I bet
that's
there's
kind of
gonna
like
be a lot of movement. I'm not necessarily saying in the second round, maybe in the second round, but in it from the way that John Lynch was talking about the talent in the later rounds, I definitely envision that they're gonna be consolidating if as long as other teams have to be willing to, of course. But if they can, I think that they're going to try to consolidate those picks and trade up into the higher versions of the rounds that they're in. Do you agree with that?
I agree because it's teams. I think teams are going to start trading up, and I think the Niners are going to trade up. I think the Niners in that second round, third round range is when they would probably do that.
Just bring up my dad's comment. Hi, Daddy, I love you. O-line is number one priority. Then could be wide receiver, opposite side of BA and or cornerback, but I guess you could say cornerback is more important. So not saying it's because, he literally raised me, but he does agree with me. Marco.
But what's funny too is I don't know. Have you noticed? I know some people don't have like your dad doesn't have Twitter, but Patrick Paul has been mentioned as a guy who may go in the first round. Mel Kiper has him ranked 50th. Jordan Reed has him ranked 68th.
Yeah.
So we're talking about disparities.
Right. Now, this makes me feel better about the whole John Lynch only having 22 guys and me being like, oh, is one of those guys going to be there at 31 if they do stay? Seeing the disparity on all these grades makes me feel better about that.
So that's where I was kind of more like, I'm not too worried about it. They then have the Niners in the third round going pretty much center guard with their top two guys. Mason McCormick, really, really good player out of South Dakota. Crazy, Malcolm doesn't even have him graded, ranked according to this. Jordan Reed has him ranked 89th, which he's a top 100 player. Then they have Zag Zinter, both don't have him on a graded, and then Andrew Phillips, who's met with the 49ers. So we just giving a couple like things out there. It's kind of crazy for everything, like how we were talking about like the disparity of players. Like I'm really high on Kingsley Suamataia. Some people aren't. So I'm kind of glad to see Jordan Reed have him at 38, even though Kuiper has him wherever. But also Kuiper's usually very wrong, but no one likes to talk about it.
Oh, it went away.
Oh, I took it down.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to keep going. You want to go fourth round?
Yeah, let's do one more. I liked doing that.
All right, cool.
Let's go.
So what pick is round 4? Is it 103? No. 124, I think we're picking next.
This is where I anticipate that they're going to be doing trade ups.
So look, this is pretty cool. So it says no relevant players. They don't know who's going to be picked at this point. Yeah, because there's not enough data for them.
This is what John Lynch is saying. John Lynch is like, dude, these later rounds suck. That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
It's kind of hard to predict because it's not really a deep draft. And I mean, you could say it's not a deep draft, or they just haven't done that many mocks of their own to the fourth round. But it's very interesting. Let's see who's
When you've
projected
done your
out of
own
Peter.
when you've done your own mock drafts and stuff, have you had that same realization that John Lynch was talking about where he basically said, that there's less deep talent, which to me was kind of like a warning, like, hey, I know that you guys are used to us finding these hidden gems in these later rounds. There's going to be less of these due to the COVID, the extra year that people have, and the NIL deals, people being able to go back. Or before, if you were unhappy in college, you had to go. You'd be like, okay, well now I have to go pro, or now you can transfer and just go to a different college. So lots of reasons, but because of that, teams and GMs are going to have to start reevaluating how they target these drafts.
It's actually funny that you asked that because Rohan and myself have actually way before John Lynch said that we both had felt like it wasn't that deep of a class this year in terms of if you want trade up into the second and third round again because right after that fourth round it's a big fall off like in terms of players talent.
Yeah.
But I think the heart of this draft is from pick 25 to like 75. Like that's where you could get starters throughout that whole process. After that, you kind of do see a little fall off in terms of talent. So, very interested to see how the Niners draft.
And
I
John
know
Lynch even said that, right? Like he was like, we have 10 picks. We have to be realistic for like how many of those guys can even make our roster. Which I
you.
like. It does feel like, did it feel like he was admitting like there is pressure this year for them to like hit on these draft picks,
I think so. He kind of felt. I kind of felt that and kind of nervousness in a way, like
Yeah.
when he was talking about the draft. Do you think the first pick the Niners take is going to be at 31, earlier than 31, or after 31? And if it is, wherever it is, does that player start immediately?
Okay, see, this sucks because there's a difference, right? Like if I was the GM, we'd be trading up for an offensive lineman. Kyle Shanahan has came up and been like, continuity is what matters with the offensive line. Yesterday, when John Lynch was asked about, getting a starter that's a first round pick that's going to start right away, he was like, it's hard to crack this team. We're not necessarily looking for someone who can start right away. We're looking for someone who can develop potentially. It didn't. The way he sounded made me far less certain that they're gonna, try to go up and actually target a guy. And honestly, the way he was talking about it made me really be like, maybe they're considering going back into the, beginning part of that second round. And because I don't know, why they're like happy with their offensive line. I don't understand. So
They're happy with it because
I want
they
to like
got to
take
the
their
Super
head and
Bowl.
be like, watch the tape. I'm Rich Madrid now. Rich Madrid.
Be-
Rich
But you,
Madrid.
I mean, I get why they're happy with it in a way. They got to the Super Bowl with it. It wasn't the O line's fault that they lost.
Tomato,
Like,
tomato, tomato.
but for me, I get it. Like I want to upgrade the offense. I think the offensive line is an issue, but I get where they're coming from in terms of Colton McKiss is
But
in
it
his
could, and
first
it
full
could
year
be.
starting. Yep, you turn off your mic. That's why, because you're throwing tomatoes. That's that's instant karma.
I
Instant
did,
karma
I
right
did,
there.
I did. It could be. I get so excited. I was gonna say it could though, and this is wishful thinking. Could be a smoke screen, right? Because when you listen to that, you think, okay, the 49ers aren't desperate for an offensive lineman. They're probably not going to need to trade up for one. Even if they do trade up, maybe they're going to trade up for a corner. Like they're happy with their offensive line. Maybe it's a smoke screen. Maybe they're trying to get um I was reading brother Rod's comment.
She was
Maybe they're
throwing
trying
at
to
you, brother Bob.
get maybe they're trying to get people off their scent. And really they're going to
No,
trade up and get a guy.
I've heard that they do want to trade up, but I don't know what player.
Do you think that they would target a guy on the offensive line, or are you thinking cornerback with that trade up, or defense, whatever? What is the guy
Possibly a
Troy
receiver.
Fontanana, Troy, whatever his
Troy
name is?
Fatuanu. Troy
Yes.
Fatuanu.
So he won't be there at 31, but do you think that could be a guy that the 49ers could try to trade up and target? Or
They could.
is he gonna go too high for that to be like a thing
I
unless
think
they
he
trade like
goes.
Ayuk?
I don't think he falls past 15. But I've heard they may be in. They wouldn't mind trading up for a receiver. I've heard.
A receiver?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Like they don't mind trading. There's a couple of guys that they really really like. There's offensive tackles and a receiver that they like. So, and off the show, I could tell you a name, but
I got this show was maybe supposed to calm me down. Instead, my blood pressure is higher. Thank you
yeah.
so much,
So I
Marco.
mean, but it's I tried warning you last week about AD Mitchell being connected to the Niners. 2 days later, he was
I'm
connected to
gonna
the
feel
Niners.
bad if he ends up being like just great, and I like went on this random campaign for him for the last like 2 weeks. I want to say like I did an entire show like 3 weeks ago, being like the 49ers should draft him. He's like Brandon Ayuk, which obviously it's hard. I don't actually mean he's Brandon Ayuk. I find it funny when people are like, "Oh, this guy." It's just a way to like compare it to someone that everyone
I
knows.
don't like comps. I
Um,
don't like comps.
Comps are hard.
I
But
yeah,
I
because
just want the record to show if he does end up being good, I had the take that he was good, but then I was convinced otherwise. So
she was
I'm doing the
convinced
John
because of
Lynch
other
thing and I'm
people.
riding the fence. You know what I mean? Like you can't kill me either way.
I feel it.
He's gonna
Respect.
be like Justin Jefferson, and these things are on the internet forever. And they're
And
gonna
I'll
be
make
like,
sure we bring them
actually.
back up. Don't even worry about it. We'll bring them up. Trust me.
um, any closing comments, Marco? What are you doing? So you're going to be going live during the draft, right? Tell people so that they
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So we will be live. Make sure you guys come over to Cledgine Sports or go over to Jesse and English channel, which is Last Second Sports. I know a lot of you guys are on Twitter watching, YouTube watching. Go to Cledgine Sports, hit that subscribe button, and we will be live 30 minutes before the draft, all the way up until pick 32, which is when the Chiefs
Would
pick.
you be
But
disappointed if pick 31 they trade back? Like you wait that
I,
whole time? And then
me and Jesse
and
talked
you're going to
about
be
that.
busy on freaking Friday, so like you just
We
that would be
talked
a
about that.
screw
I
you,
was like,
Marco.
geez,
That'd
dude.
be fucked up.
Because Jesse can't go. So it's funny because me and Jesse both had a similar situation where Jesse can't go live Friday because his son has a football game, so he can't go live Friday. So we're both like, dude, if they don't pick, we're going a full first round, talking about every pick, talking about everything that's going on, talking about the Niners, just for them to trade back and not get a pick. And I'm not gonna. I already said I'm not giving my commentary on whoever the Kansas City Chiefs draft. I'm not saying nothing on it because f the Chiefs. Can't believe they still beat us 2 times in a row. As much as I like Mahomes and Reed, man, I can't
You know
believe
what's
they beat us 2 years in a row.
You know what's fucked up? My
Jeez.
mom, I did laundry the other day, and my mom, she's such a fair weather fan. We don't like her. I'm just kidding. But she like my dad. I'm a football fan because my dad's a huge 49er fan. 49er fan because his grandpa when they came here from Europe was loved the 49ers. It tells me lots of stories of him like very poorly driving and them like watching the 49ers on their old TVs and stuff. My mom also, from the Bay Area, likes the 49ers, all these things. She gets this friggin' boyfriend who lives in Kansas, likes Kansas City. Look, I did my laundry the other day. Look what got caught up in my laundry.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
I'm
whoa!
gonna burn it.
Ashley's trying to tell us something, y'all. She might not
Isn't
be.
that
She might
crazy?
be.
Isn't that crazy?
Ashley,
I know
but she,
last stream I said I was a Taylor Swift fan and people were in the
and now
comments like,
you're.
"Oh, I see."
Whoa! Hey, man, that's.
I swear
I
that's not
don't
mine.
know.
I
I
my
swear, you guys might not see me swing
I'm
with her
such a
again.
hater. I'm such a hater that when like oh, whenever like my mom, she doesn't really like my dad and I really like sports, but my mom does. She's like so casual, but she'd like every once in a while she would like ask me about the Chiefs, and I'd be like, I'd like be so dismissive about it because I'm like, we don't want to talk about them here, mom. Oh, so
I
funny.
don't know. Brother Bob, you hear what she just said? Yeah, she. I think you were typing up your report while she said she's a Chiefs fan, bro.
I did not say that.
She said,
Never,
don't know if I'm able to
never,
report her again, brother Bob.
never, never, never.
Man, but that's. I mean, that's pretty much all I have. You're gonna be going live during the draft.
Yeah, I'm gonna be reacting as the picks come on, and then you and I are gonna. I think with Brother Bob, I'm gonna be going live on either Friday or
Nice.
Thursday for a little bit, and he's finding this out right now. Don't worry. Although he did just say he's unsubscribing, so maybe not now. I'll have to try to convince him back. I got 2 days. See what I can
He's
see
pretty
what I can
gullible,
do.
trust me.
Yeah,
Pretty gullible
yeah.
guy.
Seems pretty finicky. So, but yeah, so I'll be going live um Thursday, I'll be going live Friday, and then with you on Saturday morning.
All right, make sure everyone hits that subscribe button on both channels. Make sure you guys go to Ashley Ariana's channel, hit that like and subscribe button on her channel. Go to Clutch Gene Sports. Sunday, it's coming Sunday. I'll be on with Eli
Really
Harrell as
quick,
well,
Caleb,
former
you're
49er.
you're like 1,000% sure Caleb's going number one, right? I
Oh
just
yeah,
want to
if
get
he doesn't, I'd be
yeah,
shocked. Like if that didn't
yeah.
happen, I'd be like that would be the biggest
I
shock
feel like
in the
you always
draft.
get those like last minute, people were trying to like be like, oh, his character and he's whiny and all these things. I
And if
never,
he
I always
doesn't go first overall, I'd be like, what was the point of tanking and not getting Caleb? Like, but who knows? The Bears are the Bears. No Bears.
You think that he'll succeed there, or do you think they'll be the Bears?
I mean, I hope so. I hope every player that gets drafted is very
I get
successful. I
I
never
get
wish
little
anybody.
I get little like crushes on the like the new quarterbacks, or and on just random players too. But like I for a long time I followed Justin Fields, did the same thing with not with Zach Wilson. I don't know why I he always looked like fake to me. Like this is not in, I'm not saying anything about his personality, but and I'm not trying to be mean, but he's like face
Like a
seems
Barbie,
like
like a
not
Ken
it's like
Barbie.
mannequin-y. Yeah, I don't know why I
Yeah.
can never connect. Do you think he's gonna take over the freaking Broncos now? That's where he got traded to, right?
If I have any Niner fans that live in Denver, hide your moms. Tell your moms they can't leave because Zach Wilson is now there.
In the
Um,
house, baby.
be
Who's their
careful.
quarterback? I know it's not Zach Wilson, but who's their
Zach Wilson,
current?
Jarrett Stidham,
Oh,
and
Jared Stidham. Okay,
some other quarterback I don't even know his name of.
got it.
But they're probably going to
Poor
draft no
Broncos,
names.
man. They'd like traded the world thinking that they were gonna like turn around their team for Russell Wilson, and now they're like back in the tank and struggling.
Yikes.
Anyways, that was side notes, but I like. Are you you're are you I think you're like this. Like I like football in general. I watch more than the 49ers.
Oh, I watch
Obviously, the
every team.
49ers are like my team. Like that's the game that like I care about, you know what I mean? Like I'm like into it. Where other teams like I can be finicky. I just like go for whatever one. But
That's why my family hates it because I could watch any team. Like if it's on, it's like, all right, be quiet, football's on. Like that's for me. I just love football. So like any team.
you know
But
what makes me kind of
obviously,
like a hater? I was like low key for the last couple of years. I was like rooting for the Jaguars a little, like whenever I would see them. Not if they were playing the Niners, but just randomly. Because I'm like, oh, like they're a bad team. They suck. Like you want them to do. And now that they're like starting to do kind of like better, like be mediocre. Now I like don't like them as much. I'm like, oh, whatever.
that's
They
hella
suck.
funny. That's funny.
Yeah. Okay, but everyone have a great. What's today? Normally we stream on
Tuesday.
Great
Today's
Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Today's
Just
Tuesday.
kidding. I know things. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.